What strikes you most of the official Israeli response to the Hamas victory in the elections?
What struck us most was the big surprise. I would even describe it as a shock in Israel, both on the streets and both on the political echelon, from the results of the elections for the parliament, the Palestinian parliament. At first, there was a complete shock in Israel, and then Israel very quickly is trying now to launch a diplomatic campaign all over the world to boycott Hamas. Because of the covenant that calls for destruction of the state of Israel.
Okay. Claudio, how do you see the response so far from European capitals, notably Italy, of course?
In Italy, the response from the government was very strong. The Prime Minister Berlusconi said that was shocking news and of course, very bad news for the peace process. The same, the foreign minister, Gianfranco Fini, he told immediately that the peace process was very in danger. For the European Union, I think we have to wait for an official answer because there will be a meeting of foreign ministers. But I guess that first answer is inside the court declaration of the victory of Hamas, and it's that there is a contradiction between democratic process and maintaining an armed struggle against Israel, and mainly it's a contradiction to enter in a political process and maintain a militia. This is, I think, the most important point, and it was already it was included in the quartet reaction.
Despite tough statements opening from both Israel and Hamas saying they are light years apart, there's nothing to talk about until they change their charter, until Israel gives up territories. Israel and the PLO ended up speaking anyway, and that led to Oslo, and that brought us to where we are now. Yoni, do you think that's going to happen here?
It might happen eventually. We don't know the process. With the PLO took from 1974 until 1993, until the Oslo Accords. It took a long time because the PLO needed a ladder to go down from all its demands from Israel, and of course he was denying the right of Israel to exist, and this is unacceptable for any Israeli citizen. The same with Hamas. I think that the Israeli claims are very logical, and they are supported by the international community and by the quartet, because you cannot negotiate with somebody who don't recognize your right to exist as a sovereign state, and you cannot negotiate with a military political group that maintains a military wing at the same time, like Hezbollah, and this is the same with Hamas. Of course, we need a statement from Hamas leadership that they recognize all the accords and all the agreements that were signed between Israel and the PLO. I have to remind you that there was a mutual recognition between Israel and the PLO in 1993, just before the Oslo agreement, or as a result of Oslo agreement, and this was the basic, and this was the foundation for the negotiation between the two sides. So we need the same thing with Hamas now, and if they will meet these demands, I'm sure that Israel will negotiate with them.
Claudio, finally, would you say that the EU is on the same side of the street with Israel in this case? Would you say that the EU is with Israel on the same side of the street in this question?
EU with Israel, yes. I think on the matter of non-negotiation with Hamas, I see Europe like institution for sure in the same path, even if I want to underline that foreign policy of Europe is not like a foreign policy of the United States. It's much more complex process, and for sure in Europe there are many differences. I want just to underline that a few months ago, diplomats from France and Britain made a secret negotiation, which after a while was no longer secret because we discovered that with Hamas, and they, in spite of the fact of that Europe has put Hamas in the list, in the black list, they tried to negotiate, but the conditions of the negotiation were always the same. So give up your weapons and come in the political process. This is the big issue. I think that it will take time, maybe, if Hamas will really take this path. And we have to consider the specificity of Hamas. It's two leadership, one abroad and one inside. And one abroad is connected with Syria and Iran. So this is not only a political problem for Palestinians, but it's a regional problem. So it's much more difficult to imagine an evolution of Hamas similar of PLO evolution in the 70s and the 80s because of the international involvement, because the religious reference, because it's a jihadist group that has inside the holy war against Israel and against the West. So it's very complex. In any case, I think we are back at least 15 years ago. And it will take time to see any progress in any direction. Now we are in a very real deadlock.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being with us on Info Live TV. Yoni Ben-Menachem, Director General and Chief Editor of Israel Radio, and Middle East Bureau Chief of Radio Televisione Italiana, Claudio Pagliara. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.